It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Shaul Ladany. We're here in your beautiful home in Omer in the Negev in Israel. And Shaul, I think you are the ultimate survivor. Not only are you a survivor of the very, very few that survived from the former Yugoslavia, I think out of 70,000, very few Jews survived, but you survived from Belgrade, a bombing on your home, you survived escaping to Budapest, your time in Budapest, which was also very dangerous, being in a monastery, and then being taken to Bergen, Belsen, and surviving Bergen, Belsen. And then not only that, you survived the war, and then you became a world-renowned athlete, and you survived the Munich Olympic massacre in '72. The ultimate survivor. But I think being in your home, for me, it's the greatest honor and a privilege. And I really want to thank you. And Shaul, if you could tell us a little bit about your most incredible, amazing family and your journey. You have a book called The King of the Road. But I think you are the king of survivors.
Yes, and it has a subtitle from Bergen, Belsen to the Olympic Games.
So you were born in '36. Can you tell us a little bit about your home in Belgrade in Serbia?
My parents were born in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, in the Hungarian part, which was attached to the newly created country of Yugoslavia at the end of World War I. And my father was a chemical engineer, educated in Germany. Educated, I mean, receiving his chemical engineering degree from the University of Karlsruhe. And when my parents married, they moved to Belgrade, and they built their own house there. And I was born in 1936, and since was already the period that it was clear that Jews are not safe and they might move, they gave me a name that could have been used in many countries, many languages. In Hungarian, it is Pál, but the nickname of Pál is Polly. And in the equivalent in German is Paul. And in Serbian it is Pavle. So in many documents that were issued to me, all these names appear. And to me, the World War II started when in 1941 we have been at our house in Belgrade, villa. A big villa, except my father, that at that time he was on active reserve duty as in the Yugoslav Engineering Corps on the Albanian front, where they have Yugoslavia was fighting the Italians. And my father was building pontoon bridges over various places places over water canals and rivers. We've been at home, and then on 6th of April 41, that was only a few days after my 5th birthday. At once Germany attacked Yugoslavia. They attacked it on the ground from Austria and with the Luftwaffe, their air force, and started to bomb various places in Belgrade, usually strategic points, but for some reason a bomb fell on our house. The family, except my father, as I said, but including my paternal grandparents that lived in our house also, we moved in the basement level. There was a big basement, and adjacent to it there was a laundry room. We entered the laundry room, and I remember at once a huge shock, a noise. The steel door of the laundry room was knocked out of its hinges. My grandmother fell on me to protect me. That steel door fell on her, but except of some bruises, nothing happened to us. The bomb hit the house diagonally, second floor, first floor, and entered the adjacent basement, where several of the neighbors that came to find refuge from the bombing in our basements, thinking that it is a modern house built with reinforced concrete. It will be much better protection than in their houses. So some of those that found refuge in that big basement were killed. So by a memory from age 5 started. We tried to get after that. They became a little quiet. My grandfather tried to start my father's car, a Skoda, but since it was not in use for several months now, and the battery was empty, he was unable to start it. We walked away from the house. We walked further away to the house of friends of us. Also, the cousin of my mother was with, and her husband were with us. We stayed there maybe a day at the basement of those friends, and then we started to move in the darkness out of Belgrade. From my mother, I remember telling me that as we walked, some convoys of soldiers walked also, Serbian, Yugoslav soldiers, and they shouted on her that she should put something on my white sweater that I was wearing, because it might disclose us to German airplanes. We reached a faraway village, and for money the peasants allowed us to stay in the barn. After a few days, my parents sent we had with us 2 persons, also a Serbian lady that was cleaning the house, and a nanny that was from a German tribe origin, a Tot. They were with us. They sent that cleaning lady they back to Belgrade to see what is the situation. That lady came back after a few days telling that the German military is in power in Belgrade, but it is quiet. So we walked back to Belgrade, but not to our house, but in the middle of Belgrade, my father had his patent attorney's office. And we waited there, probably waited that somehow my father might get back and that we might unite. That is always also a story that after the German attack, sudden attack, the government surrendered, the military disintegrated, and everybody tried to get home. My father tried to ride on his horse north from that Albanian border until the horse could not move anymore. Then he bought from a peasant civilian clothes because they were afraid that with the officers' uniform wearing, the Germans might imprison them, and they heard already the stories that reached what the Germans are doing to the Jews. So in civilian clothes, we hitchhiked until they reached the town of Niš, where the train started again to move toward Belgrade, and took a ride on those on that train, but they feared that if they get to the railway station of Belgrade, the Gestapo might wait for them, and they will recognize both on their faces and so on that they are officers, and then that they are Jews. So coming close to Belgrade station, in a curve where the train slowed down, my father and some others jumped out of the train, right? And he was a little hurt, but still able to walk. He reached our house. The neighbors told him that we are in his office. So he came there. We were united.
How was the reunion? Do you remember seeing your father again?
Sorry?
Do you remember the reunion when you saw your father again? Do you have recollections?
I remember how they put me to sleep in his office. They had 2 armchairs. I was 5 years old, put together one opposite the other, 2 armchairs. I was sleeping in those 2 armchairs. I remember that my father came, so he gave me a kiss. I really did not realize the situation, really how bad the situation is. But what happened? That immediately the Germans have put on posters all over the city with several paragraphs, all in German. I had once a copy of such a poster that the first paragraph was all the Jews should report on a certain day, certain hour at a certain place. Second paragraph, Jews not obeying the orders will be shot. Bluntly stating will be shot. My parents, or really my father and my grandfather, discussed the matter what to do. They had the option to go and to report that place, or to try to escape from Belgrade back to those areas north of the Danube river, from where the stem and which were immediately again reattached to Hungary. And only after there were risks in everything. After the war, we found out that those that have reported those places in Belgrade, they were put in trucks where the exhaust fumes were reattached to the cabins where they put the Jews, and they were gassed to death. That way of killing the Jews was the first time used, before it was used in Russia and in Poland. And very soon, the German military commander of Belgrade reported to his headquarters that, using the German words, Belgrade is Judenrein. Belgrade is free of Jews. Because over 1,500 Jews were killed in this way. And the risk was when crossing to the rear-attached parts. That's common here. The noise from airplanes. Crossing the new border, just the Danube, then the Hungarian border police, recognizing that we are Jews, will either kill us on the spot or return us to the Germans in Belgrade, and then it would mean the same. Anyhow, they decided to try to cross cross the new border. I know that we crossed there. My grandfather went in front of our group. He had a big mustache, like many Hungarian peasants, and immediately the Hungarian border guards met us, and my grandmother said that Ladany in Hungarian, he said, pensioner of the Hungarian Royal Railway System is returning to homeland. That saying returning to homeland made the trick. They did not check us and let us further. And we got to the first place that is today called Novi Sad, in Hungarian Újvidék, the birthplace of my mother. But my maternal grandfather said, we are too close to the new border, we should move further away to where my father was born. That is another city called Subotica in Hungarian Szabadka. And there, after we were staying in property belonging to some family members, really a kind of enclave between houses with a very big yard. But my father went out several times and they recognized him. He was imprisoned. The police took him. My grandmother went to a classmate of my father who became a police officer, and with his aid my father was released. Then the family decided it's better to get further away from there to the capital of Hungary, Budapest. We all spoke Hungarian also. The whole family was trilingual, speaking both Hungarian, Serbian and German. And we got to Budapest, and my father had no problem. He immediately got work with the biggest pharmaceutical concern in Budapest, and in addition he worked with two patent office offices where he was in good relationship from earlier with the owners of those patent attorney offices, and after, so we immediately went somewhere rented an apartment. Money was not problem. So, and then I remember at once my mother started to cry and cry and cry for days. The reason became evident after a few days. They brought to us two girls, one of my age. I was 5 years old. It was maybe, that was already 42, so I was already 6 years old, and one a baby of 6 months. What later on I heard that a Hungarian general with his division entered the city of Novi Sad, Uvidek, with a list of the Jews. Early morning, went to the houses of the Jews, took them out from their houses, brought them to the strand, on the edge of the Danube River, that was winter when the Danube was frozen, made a big hole in the ice, and started to shoot the Jews one after the other. My maternal grandparents were taken also there to the strand when the killing stopped. The news about the massacre reached Budapest, reached the ears of a liberal member of the parliament, a nobleman by title, Graf Wojciech-Zieliński. He went to the leader of Hungary, Horthy, and demanded from Horthy that he should order the end of the killing there. And Horthy gave such an order. Two high-ranking officers rode in a car to Újvidék, Novi Sad, and stopped the killing. Up to that time, over 1,000 of the Jews were killed there, and also some Serbs. My maternal grandfather then went to the houses of two of his daughters. Two of his daughters with their husbands were all killed there in the massacre, but he found the children hidden, and the children were brought to us. So those two girls brought to us were two of my cousins, and the bigger one of my age went to a cousin of my mother in Budapest that was childless and remained with them, and they survived. They survived, and that the cousin is now a physician like her late massacred father, married to an ex-Israeli and living in Paris. The other cousin brought to us, my parents adopted her, and she is my younger sister, and I am speaking with her up to now every evening.
And her name's Amata.
And she is living in Rishon LeZion.
And you had an elder sister as well?
I had an older sister. Unfortunately, the older sister has got married and left Israel and is living in Brussels. So we have been in Budapest. My maternal grandfather, since we were refugees without anything, has sent to us furniture from two of his daughters, of my aunts, and so that we should have furniture. He said to us 3 garnitures, really, for 3 rooms. One of them for a bedroom that is today in the bedroom of my younger sister in Rishon LeZion, that was of her parents. Then from another garniture, only later on, I would say, I will cut a little now, while we have been in Budapest and been in our own apartment, then some German officers came to us, said, you have 2 days to move to the ghetto, pointed to all the new nice furniture and said, this remains here, this remains here, this remains here, and we had to move to the ghetto. After the war, my paternal grandmother found in the neighborhood of our apartment there some of those furnitures, and after the war they were shipped to Belgrade, and when in 1948 we made Aliyah to Israel. We brought to us. They were my parents, and some of them, like including this one, this you see this. There was a set of several, but only one remained. This one is from one of my aunts. Likewise, we have, I know another such a piece of furniture I have in another room from another aunt. Also there was a whole set. One remained, plus a chair just in front of the piano.
So this is the chair that you managed to bring. Wow. And the piano itself, the baby grand piano?
The piano is something that my mother received when she got married as a marriage present. And after the war, when we returned to Belgrade, they found it in the recreation club of the workers of the post. And since every piano has a number on the inside, a number, it was possible to get it back via the courts and so on. Even from the my maternal grandfather, the one that was saved there at the Novi Sad massacre. He later on was gassed to death in Auschwitz. But he in his house had this sculpture, you see.
It's magnificent. And you managed to bring it back, to bring it to Israel?
After the war, they found it in the neighborhood of his house. He's in Novi Sad. With the aid of court, they were able to get it back. It was in my mother's house in Ramat Gan, in the third burglary to her house in Ramat Gan. It was stolen. It was in the yard, in the garden. It was stolen, and again, with since she reported it, it was found later on, and with the aid of the courts in Israel, she got it back, and she gave it to me. She said, instead of putting back into her yards from where it was stolen, it's much better if I put it here inside, and it is here.
I'm just going to show it again. It's magnificent. One minute. Shaul, your family had a connection with Karl Lutz and with the Schutzpass.
I don't know. They took us to Bergen, Belsen. They took us to Bergen, Belsen on what is called the Kastner train. And it seems that some persons that were on that train, they received the Schutzpass. And Schutzpass is very rare, because what is a little more common is the Schutzbrief. And we had two Schutzpasses, one for my father and one for my mother, and on my mother's Schutzpass are the names of the children.
But can I ask you, before you went onto the train, the Kastner train, what do you remember about the ghetto in Budapest?
What I remember, I believe it's before the ghetto, that when the Germans entered Hungary with Eichmann and his troops, the parents wanted to save the children. Two of my sisters were given two gentle ladies. I know one of the gentle ladies was a secretary working at the patent attorney's office, and my father wanted to put me into a monastery. I remember that we drove in, I believe, in a tram or a bus, I don't remember, with the yellow star on our on our clothes. We got off at the Paraguay Central Station, took off the clothes, then bent them so that the inside, so that the yellow stars would not be visible. Both mine. I gave my clothes to my father, and my father also took his clothes in the same way into his hand, and brought me to the wall of the monastery. I remember that he kissed me, embraced me. I knew everything what he said before. He rang the bell. The door, the gate opened. A monk appeared. My father said to him, "I brought the child." The monk did not ask any questions. Let me in, closed the door. I was 8 years old and alone in the world, separated from my father, and I feared to my death that I was explained that they should not disclose, not find out that I am Jewish. So in the shower or toilet, I knew how to hide myself. But then they said that they are going on Sunday to the chapel to pray. I was feared to death. I had no idea what to do in a chapel, and feared that they will find out that I'm a Jew. And I said, I'm not a Catholic, I'm a Protestant. I don't know from where I got that idea. That was very traumatic for me. I feel the solution for me with the bombing by the British or Americans of Budapest, and bombs started to fall around, and my mother illogically convinced my father, saying, if to die from a bomb, then let's it may be better that we should be together, and convinced my father to take me out of the monastery. And I was brought back.
In the monastery, did you make friends with the other children, with the other boys?
Sorry?
Did you make friends with the other children?
No, nobody.
And the monks, did they speak to you, or did they?
No, I don't remember anything. I remember only my constant fear that they will find out that I'm Jewish and I will be killed. That was my fear.
So you lived in constant fear?
Constant fear.
Sure. And how long were you in the monastery?
Sorry?
How long did you stay in the monastery?
Maybe 2 weeks. And then brought back, and then back to the ghetto. In the ghetto, it was a huge house. Many stories, and each story inside court, and around it on each story there was a balcony, and from the balcony there were entrances to the various apartments. In our apartment there were several families in each room.
And Shaul, can I ask, at this time, did you have enough food, or did you have enough food, or was food?
No. I don't remember any problems with food. But I remember that somehow for the Kastner train, we had to get somewhere. I know to where, to the what they called Columbus Street Camp. And we went down from our apartment down to the lobby near the entrance with some suitcases, and then the Hungarian lady responsible for the house, cleaning the house and so on, she called the police. She thought that we are trying to escape from the house, from the ghetto. And the police arrived and started to beat up my father. He was already laying on the ground. He was beaten, knocked, and he didn't want to resist, because it was clear if he would have resisted, they would have killed him. What came to his aid, he bribed a German soldier to come and accompany us from the ghetto to the Columbus Street camp. And I was there beside my father and my I remember also my bigger sister. I don't remember the smaller sister. And when the German soldier arrived, they stopped. The Hungarian policeman left my father, and we all left the building.
It must have been very difficult to see your father being beaten up.
It was very difficult. Yeah.
Such a trauma,
It's awful. So I have memories not only from there, from Bergen, Belsen. I have memories of the hunger.
And how long were you in Columbus Street that?
I don't have memories from Columbus Street. I knew that we were there. I don't know whether we have been there for a week or 2 weeks. I don't remember. What I heard, and which is very little has been written or published, you know, they know about the Kastner train, but you know that there were preparations for a second what you train and the third train. And my paternal grandparents were supposed to be on the second train. And they go to Columbus street camp, and it really saved them later. And I met in Israel some other lady that she was supposed to be on the third train, and she was already in a assembly place for deportation, really, to Auschwitz and so on. But because she was on the list for the third train, they were brought out from there to the Columbus street camp, and then they saved their lives. About the second and third, these train groups, very little is known by the public.
Do you remember going on the train, on the Kastner train?
I don't remember, but I remember only our stay in Bergen, Belsen. And later on, how we got to Switzerland.
So, Shaul, can I know it's difficult, but do you remember arriving at Bergen-Belsen, or do you remember the camp?
I remember that somewhere from the train where it stopped, first before we got to Bergen-Belsen, we stopped somewhere, and they let us go to the shower. And what I remember, that my father, I told you, chemical engineer, had experience smelling various things. He smelled and said, gas. Gas.
I think this was in Linz.
In Linz.
Yeah.
In Linz. And it was a real shower, and not a gas chamber. I read some memoirs of others that were on the same Kastner train that mentioned the same thing about the smell of gas there in Linz before going to the shower.
But do you have any recollections of besides that, from the train?
Sorry?
Do you have any recollections of the train itself?
No.
Or going on the train, or?
No. Only when we got out of Bergen-Belsen.
And how did your parents manage to get onto the train?
Because Kastner took to prepared the list of all segments of the population, of the Jewish population. both of, including the leader of Neturei Karta.
Satmar.
Yes.
It was not Neturei, it was Satmar, the Satmar Rebbe.
Yes.
Teitelbaum.
Yes. You had the Orthodox and you had the Neologues. We were Neologues. My father, I can tell you in a moment, my father, during his time studying in Karlsruhe, was member of the Jewish Zionist Students Organization. So he was always member of the Zionist organization. In Hungary, there, I can tell you two things. One, he was there in I have a ID of member of the Hungarian, the Jewish leadership council, was member of it. Second, I have seen some typewritten list of a few names from the Jewish agency in Jerusalem of those of the names of the Zionists. So that was recommended from Jerusalem to Kastner. These are the Zionists in Budapest, and Kastner therefore put them on his list. In Bergen, Belsen, itself, I remember the hunger, constant hunger.
And you were with your parents and your sisters?
We were together with the parents. Together with the parents, bank. So that was, there were, we had there two barracks. Two barracks. In each barrack there were several halls. Several halls. In each halls, hundreds of people, bunk, beds, 1, 2, 3, and besides it, I don't remember. I believe I was on the top somewhere. What I remember, one, that there was a fence, and after the fence, also there was some electric fence, and I remember that behind the fence, but before the electric fence, a tomato started to grow out, and the tomato first was green and started to get yellowish color, and then to be more and more reddish, and my eyes came out of its hole from that desire to get the tomato, but unreachable. My memories are still good. It's so I can tell you that after the war, many years later on, I attended a conference in I believe in Copenhagen. I believe so. And with the train, not the train, sorry, with the car, rented car. Sorry. With my wife, we started to drive the car to get to Frankfurt to get our flight back to Israel. On its way, once we noticed in Germany they have these signs for places of interest, I believe brown colors, and it was written Gedenkstätte Bergen-Belsen. That's Bergen-Belsen Memorial. I said to my wife, let's go there, since I have not been there since during the war in 1944. We drove there. At that time they had a small place of showing things. Today they have a museum, and there they had somewhere a map. Sorry, not a map. Showing three-dimensional, almost three-dimensional relief map of the camp.
Like a model?
A model, and they marked it. This is the Dutch camp, Hungarian camp, and so on. We have been in the Hungarian camp, and as they marked it, I'm telling them to my wife, as they show the fence, it's not marked at the place where the fence was in my memory. So my wife says, if it bothers you, go and then tell them. I was directed to the director of the memorial place. He asked me a few questions. How do you know? I said, I have been there. Then, how old you were then? I said, I was 8.5 years old. Then he asked me, how can you remember since then, from that age, over 50 years have elapsed, where the fence was? I said, I don't know, how can I remember, but I remember. He said, okay, we can check. Let us go. On the wall, they had an aerial map that the British made of the camp. There, I've showed him the shade of the fence where I said that it was and not as marked, and I convinced the director. That is the memory of an 8-year-old child 50 years later on.
And in Bergen-Belsen, I know you were in a separate area. It was more protected. It wasn't, but did you see bodies?
No, not more protected. We were adjacent to the Dutch camp.
But did you see the terrible bodies that were...
No bodies at all. Look, Bergen-Belsen was not a death camp. It was designed to be, and that is written on the postcards and so on. It's written Austauschlager, camp for exchange camp. And it's known for the transport 122, when 122 Templars from Israel were exchanged for 122 Dutch Jews that were imprisoned in Bergen-Belsen.
I've actually met with
Sorry?
I've had the honor to meet with somebody who was on that the train, the 122 train, that was exchanged in 44.
Yes.
In 44 they were exchanged and they came to Israel.
Yes.
It was British Palestine, but they were saved and they were exchanged for the Templars.
Yes. And so it was there were no dead bodies there. What happened when toward the end, people died from starvation and from typhus.
The diseases, yeah.
Starvation and also lack of water and so on. And therefore bodies were laying all over.
You never saw the...
No, only in pictures. Photos.
But there was not enough food.
Sorry?
There was not enough food when you were there.
No, not enough. We had very little.
Do you remember what you ate?
I know. We ate a soup made of what is just a moment, I don't know the name. You make sugar from something that is grown in the ground.
Like beets.
Sorry?
Beets. I think it's called beets.
Yes, something. But there are some that don't make sugar, but they give them to animals. Soup made of that. And we got very little bread. Very little bread.
And everyone from the Kastner train, you were in the same area? The people from the train, from the Kastner train, you all stayed in the same area?
That's the same, in the same barrack.
In the same barrack, wow.
1.5 barracks. Number 10 and 11, you can see I have a poster. There was a famous artist, a graphical artist, a Hungarian Jew that worked also in Israel later on, Pesach Irshai, that drew several things. One, after that we went to Switzerland, he drew a set of postcards which he sold. I have such a set of postcards of, I believe, 7 postcards. But in Switzerland he gave to my father and dedicated to him a picture. It is hanging upstairs. I will be able to show it. And then I bought that he drew, probably they intended to make an exhibition of Bergen Belsen in 46 in Tel Aviv, but they did not make. I want to show it to you.
And this, who drew this?
That is Pesach Irshai.
It's incredible. It's so profound. It's so sure.
And it's written at the bottom somewhere. Now I can't see, but
Bergen Belsen, 1944.
Yes, and then now
Tel Aviv, 1946.
46.
Yeah. And it's barracks number 11 and watchtower number 3.
Yes. 10 and 11, these were our barracks.
This is a color painting.
Color painting, and it's written on it in Hungarian. First, the same building. See, you can see it there.
What did he write on the painting?
There is a painting on which it is written in Hungarian, the translation of this to Dionys Ladany, that you should not forget Bergen Belsen, nor of us, or nor of me.
And Shaul, how long were you in Bergen Belsen?
About half a year.
But the train wasn't supposed to. It wasn't supposed to stop in. But it was supposed to go. I think they said in the beginning the train was going to take eventually to Eretz Israel. To
Yes. It's supposed to be, and it stopped in Bergen Belsen. And there is some story that on way toward Bergen Belsen, the way reached some border station where the end just a moment, on the direction that the train commander got, it was written Auschwitz, and the train station thought maybe that it should be Auschwitz, and therefore we stopped there, and they sent back somebody to Budapest to clarify that the train should go to direction Auschwitz and not to Auschwitz.
And that saved your life.
Pardon?
That saved your life.
Yes.
And do you remember leaving Bergen Belsen?
Sorry?
Do you remember leaving Bergen Belsen?
I remember not the moment when we left, but the moment that we started that we were move. We were in a train, stopped for on the way, maybe for a week or so, or maybe more. We later on heard there were negotiations being held at that time in Switzerland between the representative of the World Jewish Congress or the Jewish Agency in Switzerland, Sally Meyer, and some of the Germans, until some agreement was made, and then we continued. What I remember, at once we moved, uniformed persons came into the train, and this time the train was not those trains for animals. but really passenger trains. Uniformed persons came, did not shout, because I was used up to that time that all the Germans, officers, soldiers shouted on us always. Did not shout, and some came with Red Cross, brought to us a cup of choco, and gave to the children a small piece, a cube of chocolate. I thought we arrived to the paradise.
Sure. I think, Shaul, if I can mention, one of the people that were involved also in those negotiations was Recha Sternbuch.
Sorry?
Recha Sternbuch.
Yes.
She's very well known that she was involved in the negotiations as well,
yes,
to get the train to come to Switzerland. But it's a miracle that it came as well.
Yes.
And you remember the chocolate and the
yes,
chocolate?
That I remember. And I remember that feeling like arriving to the paradise.
And you knew you now were in freedom. You were free.
Yes. We have been brought first to St. Gallen, went photographed again, and then brought to Caux sur Montreux. That was once a huge hotel, empty. The Swiss used it also earlier to house there some Allied pilots that managed to get to Switzerland. And we were brought there in a room, several families together, each family. But I said later on, the first time that I felt childhood.
You had gone through a hell. You had literally gone through hell.
Sorry?
For the previous few years, you had gone through a hell.
Yes.
A terrible time.
Look, it was 8 years old when I got to Switzerland. 44. Although it was December, maybe 8.5.
And how long did you stay in Switzerland?
Not all in the same place. Until in 45 we returned. We returned to Belgrade.
This is when the war had ended?
Yes.
While you were in Switzerland, did anybody from the Jewish community come and visit, or do you remember any?
I know two things, or three things. One, my family had some friends in Zurich, Bagnoi, I remember, and he came to visit us there in Caux and brought to me a sled. That's one. Second, we were brought with my bigger sister to don't know whether to call it camp housing for Jewish children in Hayden that belonged to the Jewish Organization of Switzerland. It belonged to them. A third thing, my father had a bank account in Switzerland, officially, on his stationery as a patent attorney's office. It was written what is exactly in which bank, and maybe even the number of the bank account. As a result, my father was able to get what they called liberation from the refugee camp in Co. The Swiss authorities did not want the Jewish refugees to be a burden on the Swiss economy, to take away places of work from the Swiss. They suffered from not having income from tourism. And but if somebody was able to show that he has money and will not take away any working place from the Swiss, they let him out with conditions that he has to report at the police once a week, and so on and so on. So my father was able to get offers from 2 universities, and finally accepted from the University of Basel an offer to work without any salary in research with a professor. I will mention the name just a moment. So he was liberated with my mother and my younger sister to live in Basel there. They rented a pension, and were there. The professor was Reichstein, just I will mention. He was from originally from Polish origin, Tadeusz, but there in Switzerland he was Theodor Reichstein. In my father just went further and developed a process for producing a drug, calcium gluconate, and the professor let him, since he did not receive, my father said, any salary, to take out a patent just on his name, process. Later on, that calcium gluconate was produced in few countries, including in Israel. Reichstein itself, in 1954, maybe, I'm not exactly, got the Nobel Prize in medicine. He was the first person that synthesized vitamin C and so on and so on. He got the Nobel Prize.
And your father had this close connection.
Sorry?
Your father was very close with him.
Yes.
Did they keep the connection all the years?
Yes. And I have several documents. First, a card where it's written from the University of Brussels, Theodor Brack, that Reichstein is the one that's supervising him there in the research. And second, when my father congratulated him for receiving the Nobel Prize, I got the answer from Reichstein where he thanked for the congratulations and so on. And my father published I believe in the Weltwoche, an article under the caption "Eine große Mann in einer kleinen Gasse", a great man in a small street.
Did you visit your parents in Basel?
I don't know. Reichstein lived in Basel, and my father worked with him, so saw him daily.
But did you go visit?
Sorry?
Did you remember going to visit? Did you go to...
No. I don't remember. I remember from Haydn going to visit my parents in Basel.
Oh, you do remember?
I don't remember. I remember I and my sister got put on our neck here now a big sheet of carton where it was written in what train to which destination, where we have to change it where, and so on. So it was written so the other person should help us, and we reached Basel. I remember my mother taught me to swim in Basel, in the Rhine.
And when the war ended, you had to leave. The Jewish refugees, the Swiss...
The Swiss government wanted to get rid of us, and they wanted to send us to camp in Algeria. I forgotten the name of the place. And my father and some others have written petitions to the president of the Swiss Federation against that. And I had somewhere the reply from the Swiss, I don't know whether from the president or maybe the police gave, that sorry, that Switzerland needs all the its resources and does not have enough resources to keep the refugees, and therefore they must get rid of us. And when it was organized what they called repatriation to Yugoslavia, it was organized by somebody who became later on the chief medical officer of the Israeli military. Forgotten his name. He organized it, and we returned to Belgrade in 1945.
And you remember the trip going back to Belgrade?
To Belgrade, yes.
And you went to your home?
We went to our house. I remember my father knocked on the door. Somebody lived there in one of the rooms. They were not fully restored, the house, rebuilt. He said, I am the owner of the house, I returned. I survived, I returned. The person was shocked, let us in one room. My father then restored the whole building, restored my father had also a fabric for a chemical called water glass. That is a chemical that is produced like glass, but it is then later made liquid. It's a green color, made liquid. It has uses in many other industries. He restored it also, started to function it until it was then naturalized. And still my father worked in the national research institute in Belgrade until the State of Israel was established. And then when the State of Israel was established, all the Jews, including most of the Jews of Yugoslavia, including my father, wanted to get out of Europe, get out of Yugoslavia, and the leader of Yugoslavia, Tito, did not want to, but he had a friend that they both as a communist sat in the same cell in prison and were in exile together, and Tito made that friend the speaker of the Yugoslav parliament, and his name of that friend of Tito was, and I'm saying exactly, Moshe Piade.
He kept it Moshe.
Moshe Piade. Not Moses, Moshe Piade. And he convinced Tito to allow the Jews to emigrate to Israel under relatively good conditions, that the Jews had to give up their nationality and give up all their real estate, but Tito allowed them to take their mobile property, not in commercial quantities. So we arrived in 1948 to Israel.
Can I just ask, when you were in Belgrade, did you go to school? Did you attend school? Did you manage to go?
Yes, my first when we returned to Belgrade, I've forgotten Serbian, and my mother taught me also, and I'm saying it not as you say in English, but as the Serbs say, Cyrillian alphabet. You say it Cyrillian.
Yeah.
I don't know, the Serbs call it Cyril and not Kirill. And I managed to study in Belgrade a few years.
Did you make friends with the other school children?
Just one.
Did they know you were Jewish?
They knew I had a very good friend, very good friend. He became a doctor, but then he had some probably nerve problems. I've been invited by the Israeli embassy in Belgrade to come. Two purposes. One, to participate in the Belgrade half marathon, which I walked, and at the same time to lay a wreath at the monument in honor of the Jews killed at that place where we should have been reported, which we didn't report. Then in 1941, I tried to contact that friend. I have spoken with his sister. She gave me the place in Germany, near Holland, where he is hospitalized. I spoke with him. I phoned there. He remembered me very happy, but I lost contact. So I assumed that he passed away. He had some nerve problems there.
And can I ask, when you went back to school, did the other children know that you were a survivor, that you...
In Belgrade, in the same school, besides me and my older sister, there were two other Jewish children, the Goldsteins. The others, they did not ask. They never asked. I don't remember.
But did you ever have any anti-Jewish or anti-Semitism or any anti-Jewish feeling at school?
No. Look, the Croats were anti-Semites. The Serbs were not anti-Semites. I don't remember there anything.
It must have been difficult for your parents to come back and to think that so many of their neighbors didn't survive and so many of their friends.
Look, when we came back to Yugoslavia from Switzerland, they came back probably for several reasons. One, to search for relatives. Second, to get back their property. And only later on they found out, whatever they found out, which relatives survived and which were killed.
But Shaul, it's so sad. The percentage of the Jews in the former Yugoslavia, the vast majority, I think 70,000,
majority
didn't survive.
Were killed.
Yeah, were killed.
But I told you that in Croatia there killed many. I had an aunt. My mother had there were five sisters. Two of them, I told you, were killed in that Russia. One was married to a Italian Christian, a Montani, and they served her. She survived. The fifth sister was married to somebody that the fifth sister was a pianist, was married to a Jew that he brought that the husband of that sister of my mother, that her husband has brought up the son of his brother that was killed also by the Nazis. The son of his brother was called Tommy Lampel, and he changed his name to Tommy Lapid. And you know who is it, yeah.
And his son's Yair Lapid, yeah.
Sorry?
Tommy was at Yad Vashem. He was...
Yes.
And Yair was...
Yair is his son.
Yeah. So they were also from Yugoslavia.
Tommy Lapid, he used to call me cousin. We were not cousins, but because of that pianist aunt of mine.
And you had a connection through the years?
With Yair, never.
But with the father, with Tommy?
With Tommy, yes. Not much, but little. He wrote the introduction to the first the Hebrew edition of this book of autobiography.
From Bergen Belsen to the Olympic Games. Sure. Do you remember coming to Israel in 48? Do you remember when the state was declared?
I remember. We arrived. First, when we arrived, we almost sank on our way. We came in a ship that was a cargo ship converted to bring Olim by name Kefalos. And again, 3 floors with grates in between and stormy weather. People were vomiting from the storm, and bunk breaths, and the water was on the upper floor outside, on the top desk. they put some water sinks with seawater, the ordinary soap. You cannot use it with seawater. You don't know that. It won't. It
doesn't gel. It doesn't go together.
No. When finally we arrived, a trip that usually takes by ship maybe 3 days, maximum 4 days. We arrived in, I don't know, 2 weeks or whatever. It took very long. And when we saw the lights of Haifa, we were all very happy. We were shipped or taken to Machane Olim in Ber Yaakov. There we got some bed, mattress, maybe 2 blankets. Stayed there for 2 or 3 weeks, and they said we can get an apartment from empty houses of Arabs in Lida. And we went there to Lida by foot, I remember. Got 2 rooms, no electricity, no running water, a primitive Turkish toilet in the garden. For water, we had to go with buckets of water. There was maybe half a kilometer away or a kilometer away a place. There was running water to fill up the bottles or whatever we had, so on, until my parents built it up. We had electricity, we had running water and so on. And initially, after some time, they put up a school of children of various ages in the same class. Various ages, it means very small to much older than me. And speaking many different languages. Nobody knew Hebrew. And after maybe 2 or 3 years there, they wanted to give me a certificate that I finished a very low class. My parents took me, my father took me to Tel Aviv to a private high school, and I did not know Hebrew, did not know English, and there they just spoke with me. I knew mathematics, that I knew. They let me to the 5th class of gymnasium and they had initially serious problems because no Hebrew, obviously not Tanakh and so on, and no English. but due to success in the all the realistic real subjects like mathematics, physics, chemistry, where I succeeded very well, and I started to teach French. I succeeded very well. Very well. They let me from fifth class to sixth, and I finished quite well with the eighth class of gymnasium, finishing high school. Nobody asked me. They all knew that I came from Europe. Nobody asked me what I went through during the Holocaust.
Never once?
No, nobody. Nobody asked me.
And your friends?
Sorry?
The friends that you had, your school friends, they never asked you?
Never, never, nobody. And most of the children were there all Sabres from Tel Aviv already.
What was the name of the school?
Geula. Tichon Geula.
And nobody, and the teachers didn't ask you? Or?
No, no.
Did you speak at home about the Shoah or what had happened?
Nobody asked me.
But at home, did you speak with your parents and your sisters?
We knew, obviously.
But none of your friends asked, they weren't interested to find out? Or
Nobody. Wow. And even I had in Lod friends, other friends, nobody spoke about the Shoah.
I think it all changed with the Eichmann trial.
With Eichmann, after Eichmann.
Do you remember the Eichmann trial?
I attended it twice.
It was in Yerushalayim.
In Yerushalayim, Bet Am. I still have the entrance ticket.
And you were inside, and you saw Eichmann?
Yes.
And after that, I think people became more aware and...
Yes.
And that's incredible. And Shaul, do you remember the Kastner trial?
I remember I was very angry because Binyamin Halevi, that first it is not Kastner trial, it was Kastner sued Greenwald.
That's right, you know.
Greenwald published various things against Kastner, and Binyamin Halevi was a rightist that became later on member of the Herut party. And while Kastner was a candidate for the Knesset by Mapai. So these were political issues. And only that in the trial where on the side of Greenwald there was a very an excellent lawyer.
I think Tamir,
that caught Kastner in a lie, because the Israeli public at that time was unable to understand and accept somebody that if he makes a promise, a word, when you say, I gave my word, that has to be kept. You know, in Jewish tradition, you say a word, you don't have to keep it. And a British gentleman and also European gentleman means you gave your word. You have to keep it. And since Kastner promised then to an SS that he will testify in his favor if he allows whatever he allowed the Kastner train, and he tried not to say that, admit that he gave his word, that therefore he testified in his favor. He denied that, so Kastner lied to the court, and this started the whole attitude by Benjamin Halevi against Kastner.
But if it wasn't for Kastner, you wouldn't be here today.
Yes.
And have you been in touch with other Kastner train survivors, people that were on the train? Through the years, have you met, or are you in touch?
I meet them at that annual meetings.
The memorial.
Yes. And when the press states the number of people that he saved, it is always not the correct number, because Kastner first, while in Bergen, Belsen, once they asked us to declare our nationality. And I remember as a child the discussion that was held between the people what to declare. And many had various options. We were able to say Hungarian, we were able to say Yugoslav, so Serbian, or Croatian, and some had options, those from Transylvania, for example, Romanian, and so on. On the train, there was a family of cousins of my mother from Transylvania. They thought that since the King of Romania did not allow the Nazis to deport the Jews to the death camps, it will be the best to declare Romanian citizenship. They declared Romanian citizenship. When we were sent from Bergen, Belsen to Switzerland, all those that declared Romanian citizenship were left behind. Why? Because in the meantime, Romanian left the Axis with Germany. But they were saved.
Yeah.
They were saved.
The
number is not mentioned at all.
I see what you're saying, huh? And have you remained friendly with any of the survivors from the Kastner train?
So see,
are you in touch with many of the survivors on a personal level?
A few. I meet them, especially I had those, what I'm saying, that were on were left over there in Bergen, Belsen. One of the family members that remains Otto Kassovitz is still alive. I see him there. Then somebody else that was from Belgrade, that was with us there. I meet him and his wife also at the memorials. There is somebody in Omer. I don't see him, but I met him. That his mother, really like an adopted mother, and so on, was dealt with the children while we have been in Bergen, Belsen.
And he lives here in Omer?
He lives in Omer.
But I still can't believe it.
And since I collected everything about Bergen, Belsen, I have books written on Bergen, Belsen, a collection of books, all on topic of Bergen, Belsen.
And you have the photos as well.
Sorry.
But it's hard to believe that nobody of your friends asked you what you went through, and
nobody.
But were you ever, I don't want to use the word ridiculed, but did anybody ever make unpleasant remarks that you were a Holocaust survivor, or
no?
That never
not
happened?
Only there, even not there, later not in the army, and even not in while I studied at the Technion or the Hebrew University. Nobody asked me. I remember something that once at Bergen, Belsen, they made a symposium and an exhibit. They asked everybody that has some souvenir regarding Bergen, Belsen, that it should be exhibited at an exhibition there, and I gave it. I was also invited to, during the same time, to be a member of a panel during a symposium there, but there it was an exhibit. Maybe half a year later or a year later, contacted me in Israel here, somebody that was together me in the military. We were together at the officer school, pre-officer school and officer school, and he wrote, he visited that exhibition, and he was surprised to see that I submitted something, and it was written that I am a survivor. He never knew about it.
It's incredible. It's really incredible. So, Shaul, I have to ask you, how did you get into the sports, and how did you get into the academic? Because your grounding in Lod, you weren't at the best school, and you didn't have the best foundation, and look what you achieved. You became a world-renowned professor, and you became one of the greatest athletes that this country has ever produced. A world leader in the 50-kilometer walking.
I can tell you a few things. One, that when I was awarded a chair at Ben Gurion University, which is an honor, and also little money, there is a ceremony ceremony where officially at the ceremony first you have to give a lecture or say something, and then they award you the chair. And I, in my speech, I said that, look, I want to disclose something that you might not know. I have never finished never have an elementary schooling finishing all of the how many 12 years of elementary schooling. I had only about 2.5 years, and all those 2.5 years in 3 or 4 languages together. And now, if you hear that, you might change your decision and not to award the chair. That's one. Second, I can, in regard to the walking, it started really with 4-day marches. It is not a competition, but the 4-day marches in Holland invited the Israeli military to send a group, and they started to organize here. And these were not competitions, but people tried to walk as fast as possible. And I trained, and I succeeded very well. Even in the officer school, Bad Echad, they wrote about me that I have an exceptional physical ability, because I saved somebody and so on. I participated. I started with running, and as a runner, I participated in the first marathon in Israel and also in the second marathon in Israel. But I was very good in walking, and excelled. I even so that I used to walk back and forth to do the distances of 40 kilometers back and forth. So the Israeli press called me the king of the marches. I can mention the fact that while studying at the high school in Tel Aviv, I lived in Lod, and a lot of traveling, and it was the bus communication was very difficult, extremely difficult, and when they had at the end of some year, I believe when I believe the fifth or sixth year of gymnasium, and then maybe of the 7th year of gymnasium, they had a party. Usually it was on a Friday or whatever, in the evening, no bus connections, nothing. And at that time it was not common that the people invited come and sleep over at our house. And I walked in the darkness, alone from Tel Aviv, once from Ramat Gan to Lud, walked in the darkness, walking when the shakals were heard their barkings and so on. They walked.
How long did it take? It's a long walk to...
Long walk. Maybe 2 hours or more, or 3, I don't know. I walked in the night.
And then...
So I always first said that I am out of Bergen Belsen, but Bergen Belsen is not out of me. And Bergen Belsen really forged my character. Some stubborn, which you need in the long distance competitions, where you feel the pain, the discomfort, and to overcome it.
And I think being in that monastery and having that fear, I think you once mentioned that nothing scared you after being in the monastery.
Sorry?
Because you were in the monastery and you had such a fear.
Yes.
I think nothing scared you after that.
No.
It had such an indelible impression on you that you were fearless.
Yes. So therefore, even in my, I believe that in my autobiography, I called it a chapter, the forging of character or something like this.
It's so nice. You have the picture, and I'm so glad that we can show it. A picture of your with your sister Martha. These are the pictures that you have. Such beautiful pictures.
Which one?
You have a picture with your parents in the balcony of the home in Ramat Gan.
Yes.
In 1957, and when you were in the office training course with your sister Martha, which you're still in touch with.
Yes.
And with your wife Shosh, and you were many years married.
58 years.
And your wife came from Germany, and
yes.
She remembers Kristallnacht.
On her grave tomb, it's written, I wrote that she's survivor of the Kristallnacht.
And it's written on her. So it's so amazing. You have a picture with Danny Kaye. You remember Danny Kaye, the actor?
Yes.
And can I ask, when you were asked to represent Israel, as an athlete, it must have been such a tremendous feeling.
Tremendous feeling.
To represent your country.
I can tell you, not only that, when my father took me for starting my military service, he told me that you are blessed with the opportunity to serve your country, a Jewish country. And I repeated the same words when I took my daughter to start the military service, and when we took our oldest or the first granddaughter to start her military service, I repeated to her the same sentence.
It's so magnificent. It's so true, and it's so profound. It really is.
She became the oldest, the granddaughter became an officer in the Israeli army.
She was in Bergen?
She was in Bergen.
And Shaul, can I ask, when you represented Israel in the first Olympics, that must have also been a milestone.
Yes, not only that, I was in both 68 and 72. I was the only Israeli male athlete to pass the Israeli Olympic standard.
Really? And in 68 it was in Mexico?
68 in Mexico City.
And can I ask, with the Munich Olympic Games, was it hard to go to Germany?
I was proud to be there to show you tried to kill us, and I'm still here and be able to do and compete with the best in the world. At that time already I was holding the world record in the 50 mile.
And it's a miracle that you survived the terrible massacre where
Yes.
11 of our athletes were murdered.
And I had in my life also 2 accidents with anti-Semites.
I think the one was when you were in Mexico.
When I was in Mexico, and one in much later on, participating in a walk that's from Schleswig to Viborg, a walk there also where somebody said almost knocked me down and said in German, "Du Jude, nicht vor Österreich." You Jew, no, not before Austria. I pushed a flag with how you saw it, that wooden piece in his stomach, and said to him, "You drunken Nazi, if you do it again, I will kill you."
And I think in Mexico you had a jacket with Israel at the back.
Yes.
And you heard somebody mention...
Schwein. Said,
and you twisted his arm.
And twisted it.
Shaul, you've always been a proud Jew, a proud Israeli and a proud Jew.
Yes.
And if I have to ask, what message do you impart to your grandchildren and to the future generations?
Succeed in whatever you are doing and be proud of it, and try to protect Israel as much as possible.
And being the ultimate survivor that you are, and you really are, Shaul, what we're seeing, what we're going through now, what are your thoughts on what's happening? Do you have a hope that...
Look, I'm an optimist. Whatever problems we have, they will end. But we should rely on ourselves. That's first of all. Then to keep friends and others, it's fine. But rely on ourselves and don't give up any hopes.
It's so good. And what I think also amazing about you, Shaul, which is incredible, is that you, on Pesach, you eat matzah and you fast on Yom Kippur, because you identify with the Jewish people, you identify as a Jew. And I think here we have
Look, this is a part of our protection.
It's so true. So I just want to thank you. I am so grateful. No, Shaul, if you could. Shaul, I have to ask you if you could sit. No, I want you still to sit.
Want me to sit?
Because I'm going to... Shaul, you have a South African connection, both as an academic, it's at the University of Cape Town, and also as an athlete.
Yes. I've been twice. I have been even invited to the South African Games. It was, I believe, in '73.
And you participated?
Yes, in Pretoria.
And how did you do at the games?
No, it was 20 kilometers. It's too short for me.
You've heard of the Comrades Marathon?
No, that I have not done. That would, but I thought about it, because you need always somebody that should accompany you logistic-wise. But I was in South Africa at that time, and then I went to Stellenbosch for the 50-kilometer South African national championship and won it.
So you became a Springbok.
Yeah.
And you lectured at UCT, at the University of Cape Town. You were a lecturer in Cape Town?
Yes.
What did you lecture?
Operations research and also production management, but mainly operations research.
And you were well received?
Yes, yes. I was very well received. I had made many friends there. The one who was the chairman of the business school, we later became, he left for the United States, was at Columbia University and was somewhere in Ohio. I don't know what he was. He became president of one of the universities there.
And Shaul, did you ever go to Wits University in Johannesburg?
Maybe I did not lecture there, but I maybe just visited.
Oh. Well, thank you so much. It's really been such an honor and a privilege to be with you. Shaul, you won 3 times?
I won 3 times the blue ribbon competition in the world of race walking, the London to Brighton. And the first time when I won it, I was received at the finish line by the mayor of Brighton, and besides him was standing his wife. She was Jewish, and the reporter came there and asked me, "What is?" They said Ladany. What is your Christian name? And I said I answered to him, I don't have a Christian name, I have only a Jewish name, it is Shaul. And I saw in the eyes of the wife, the Jewish wife of the mayor, how she was happy of the freshness of an Israeli.
And Shaul, can I ask, when you were a visiting professor, you were in Cape Town, and you're in many countries. You've lectured.
I have been in many countries. I've been in Singapore. Melbourne, and I was also invited to the International Science Center in West Berlin.
That was before the reunification.
Yes. So.
And you've always been well accepted, being an Israeli academic.
Always an Israeli visitor.
And you've had a good reception.
I had a good reception.
And you're always proud to show that you're Israeli, and you've never.
Yes.
And it must give you a tremendous satisfaction seeing Ben Gurion, how the university has grown and it's become one of the top worldwide universities.
Yes, I'm happy. I still have my office at the university, but I attend it now only sporadically, but I'm still engaged in research with a friend. He used to be at Ben Gurion University, but he's now professor at the Open University, and we are working on a research project.
And Shaul, can I just ask you, with regard to the Munich Olympic, what happened, it was 50 years ago.
52.
52, but 50 years ago when they did have the 50th anniversary, did you go to the anniversary?
Yes, I've been there.
It must have been very emotional.
And not only to there, in Tel Aviv, they are holding every year on 5th September, the 5th of September, or the equivalent date according to the Hebrew calendar, a memorial also, because there is a park which is called the Memorial Park for the 11 Israeli killed in Munich, and I'm attending it every year.
And Shaul, if I can ask you, when the Olympic Games, after they heard the news of the massacre, I think a day or two later, they continued with the Games. They continued. They didn't stop the Games,
yes,
even after what had happened. How was your feeling when you heard that the Games were continuing?
I was for continuing the Games.
You were?
I was, at that time already. And I voiced my ideas. I said the many Arab countries, they try to kick us out of various international forums. Forums did not succeed, and now we should not give them the satisfaction that they are kicking us out. They should have left even at for the closing ceremony the Israeli flag, maybe with additional black colors to parade on, and we should not let the world to hate us for taking away from them the opportunity to see an Olympic Games, and we should not take away from the athletes that have trained hardly for years for the opportunity to show whatever they are able to do by preventing them to continue to compete. That was my idea, and I still stand by those ideas.
Well, I think in those games afterwards, Mark Spitz, the Jewish swimmer, received 7 gold medals.
He already finished his. The American team feared for his life, and therefore they took him out of the Olympic Village.
But he, in those Olympic Games, he received 7 gold medals.
Yes.
And if we look at your cabinet, you have the most amazing. Your home is like a museum. It's incredible.
Yes. By the way, I have here a kind of a problem that after I'm gone, I would like
but that's in many more years.
You never know how many, but I would like that assembly of all the trophies and plaques and there are more all around here because there's no room there to be exhibited somewhere, properly exhibited, and I don't see any place where they are willing to exhibit them and keep them properly exhibited.
Maybe in Kfar Maccabea they have place.
I don't know it. At Kfar Maccabea, look, you have a museum of the Jewish sports.
And this is the ultimate in Jewish sports.
There they have, I donated them, they have the shoes that I wore when I set the world record in the 50 miles, and they're exhibited there, but nothing more. And maybe they are showing maybe also the Pierre de Coubertin medal.
So could you tell us a little about, this was an award that was given by the Olympic Committee?
International Olympic Committee.
It's a very prestigious award.
Yeah, yes.
So your home is just, it's magnificent.
If you can find me a place that they are willing to exhibit it, I would be very, very happy that it should go there.
I think it's a remarkable achievement. It's a unique achievement. And I think whoever has it should go really to one of the top museums, because this is where, but this is a living museum and you are a living example, a living hero. Shaul, thank you so much.
Welcome, and thank you very much for interviewing me.
It really has been the greatest honor. So, Shaul, from the bottom of my heart, I am so incredibly grateful to you. This has been, there are no words, there really are no words. You are such a hero. You are somebody we can all look up to, emulate, really. You are an inspiration for all of us.
Okay, thank you very much.
So you just have Mazel Bracha, 120 in good health.
Thank you.
And I am extremely grateful to you.
Thank you very much.